Representatives from government, business and labour are meeting in Johannesburg today to discuss ways of reducing the country's unemployment. With joblessness now at 29.1%, it paints a grim picture of the economy. President Cyril Ramaphosa is hosting the Presidential Jobs Council meeting at the National Economic Development and Labour Council, NEDLAC. The meeting is intended to strategise and formalise tangible measures to create jobs in a variety of sectors. It comes just 2 days after ratings agency Moody's revised South Africa's credit rating outlook from stable to negative. However, it stopped short of downgrading the country to junk status. Let's get more on the story. I'm joined by Matthew Parks from Cosatu. Thanks so much for your time on SABC News. Talk to us about that meeting and what happened.
Sure, look, it is a very positive meeting. The purpose of the meeting is to make sure the Presidential Jobs Summit that took place last year, that the agreement that was reached there between government, business and labour is implemented. We were quite frustrated as Cosatu that there was a lack of progress after the Jobs Summit last year. We felt that business, instead of creating jobs, was retrenching workers. We felt the government itself was reneging on its commitments. And the agreement was quite comprehensive, very progressive agreements. So we raised our concerns with the President, and since that time, for the past 3 months, we've had these monthly meetings with the President, with ministers, with leaders of industry and labour. And we don't deal with rhetoric, we go through the Job Summit section by section. So today we dealt with the issue of how can we make visas more accessible to tourists to get them to come to the economy, because tourism is a key growth sector for the economy. We dealt with how can we make water licensing processes go faster so that people can start up mining companies, start farms, which will create jobs. We had a very good agreement last month and this month, which is now really happening, where we as Cosatu have been calling for an export tax on scrap metal for many years, to try to keep scrap metal in South Africa, which, because it's cheap for industries, it can support beneficiation and create new jobs. So finally we've seen progress in that, which should happen beginning of next year. There's some progress, but much more work needs to be done around rolling out spectrum and digital migration, which has been kind of delayed for many, many years. So there's quite a few things, but I think we're starting to see some of the kind of pushing the efforts, the green shoots and so on. But it's hard work, and today we had to have very frank discussions with government around areas we feel that they're failing on. We feel that the UIF, for example, Unemployment Insurance Fund, hasn't really come to the party in terms of many of the projects and tasks it was given to help companies who are applying for funding, for distressed companies, to retrain workers, to avoid retrenching them. So we've had some frank discussions with government. The President has also agreed to intervene on areas where there's weaknesses. But there are also some positive reports we received today. So we received a report from the CCMA about the amount of job losses and retrenchments. That about 22,000 retrenchment notices were submitted to the CCMA. They managed to save about 9,500 of those jobs. The IDC gave us a report about how they managed to save about 53,000 jobs through the distress fund they have to help small companies. There's some new funds that the business processing centers have been able to create about 17,500 jobs. So some green shoots, but given the state of the economy with actually we believe 40% unemployment with the expanded definition, we're in a very difficult situation. The Moody's call on Friday was actually a second chance for us once again to get our act together. So we're really trying to seize the opportunities. And I think, to be frank, we've got about 3 months to show real progress on the economy, around the state, the SOEs, before Moody's reviews our rating in February next year after the budget speech. So if we don't get our act together, then things will get much worse. So, but there's a real sense of commitment between government led by the President, some business leaders and ourselves to kind of get the economy moving and get into action.
So NEDLAC is this vehicle that government, labour, unions and other people come together and try and discuss these challenges that you've spoken about. There has been some criticism of it, reportedly also Sipho Pikana saying that it's no longer a relevant vehicle to do that. Other people saying perhaps NEDLAC is not the way anymore, there needs to be a change. What's your view on that?
Look, we have two options in life. One is that we can sit in our corners and point our fingers at each other and complain about life. But the reality is, as Cosatu, our members are bleeding from unemployment. Thousands are being retrenched. So we have to engage with government, who has the levers of power and the resources. We have to engage with industry, which employs people, and see how do we find each other. We're all in the same ship, South Africa, together. So either we sink or swim together. Look, NEDLAC is not perfect. I think human beings by nature have flaws. But it's the legislative body for government, business and labour to engage around socio-economic challenges, how to grow the economy. It has had successes. In January this year, the minimum wage came into effect. that raised the wages of 6.4 million of the most vulnerable, poor, exploited workers. That is a NEDLAC agreement between labour, business and government, and it found the right balance between the different constituencies' interests. We managed to have the national health insurance engagements at NEDLAC. Comprehensive social security reform is taking place at NEDLAC. So it's not perfect, but there are opportunities, but you have to find each other. And in fact, many countries actually look to NEDLAC as a role model for how you can kind of get key social dialogue partners to come together.
Okay, so this is an ideal vehicle, or close to ideal vehicle, if you're saying it's not perfect. My question is, that organization itself, NEDLAC itself, has had organizational challenges, governance challenges, one of them allegations that the CFO had influence on procurement. So, and this is one of a series of problems with the actual vehicle. If we need to get out of this dire situation, but the vehicle which is meant to do that is not even functioning properly itself, what's to be done?
Look, I would distinguish between a vehicle which is beyond hope, broken engine, or a vehicle which needs a tyre to be replaced. There have been twice problems at NEDLAC around good governance, issues of fraud, allegations of corruption and so on, serious allegations. A previous director and CFO were implicated by audited statement from the AG in corruption, fraud and so on. So we, at that time, a couple of years ago, instituted a forensic investigation. Allegations about 3 million rand of fraud was raised. We had then handed over to the NPA and the police. Unfortunately, the NPA and the police have done nothing with it. It was raised at Parliament, nothing was done with it. What happened earlier this year, though, again, was allegations of some procurement irregularities, fraud and so on occurred. What we did then, it was a much smaller amount, but we took immediate action. We placed both the director and the CFO on suspension, called disciplinary hearings, investigated, they were fired. So we don't want to allow this kind of demons of corruption to crop up. We want to take decisive action quickly when it happens.
Thanks so much for your time on SABC News. Matthew Parks from Cosatu joining us in studio there. Now, President Cyril Ramaphosa will be looking to garner more investment into South Africa this week, despite its weakened position. The country recorded its worst unemployment level in over a decade in the second quarter of this year, while economic growth is expected at 0.5%, only a third of what was expected by February by Treasury.